My cultural investigation included the personal lenses of both of my sisters, Angela and Cassie. Step 1. What do I already know or think I know? So what do I know or think I know about the cultural lens of both of my sisters and myself? I think that our upbringing is based a lot around religion and family. I think that the various environments that we lived have contributed to giving each of us a different perspective on certain areas of this interview. There were some surprises to me, and there was a lot of connection with both of my sisters that confirmed some of my assumptions. Our road to surface culture went through urban, rural, and suburban living, geographically identified in the southern Midwest, with English language spoken in the home and slight southern drawl accent, mainly by peers, not really by us. At least that's the way we see it. For the most part, our shallow culture is similar in our beliefs and our understanding of our upbringing. We varied in perspective as far as what our socioeconomic status was growing up. My older sister felt that we were middle class, where my younger sister and I felt that we ranged from lower income to middle class. As far as the story of the family, how our family arrived in America, I think that I have the most advanced understanding, whereas both of them kind of go off stories told in the family. And my older sister also reflected a lot about both sides of her family, whereas my younger sister and I only reflected on our mother's side of the family, which is how we all relate. So that was interesting to see where two of us are, identify as, I guess, single parent homes for the majority of our life, and one of us identified as having both influences throughout her life. That was interesting. Family folklore was another question that we all perceived differently. As far as what folklore is, I answered with Christmas stories and biblical stories, which is what I recall always being told. My younger sister recalled that Angie and I told her about ghost stories at Grandma's house, which is kind of funny because I didn't even think about that. I didn't relate that as being folklore. And my older sister went to stories of our heritage that we have been told. So all three of us perceived that question completely differently. Traditions for all three of us revolve around family gatherings and food. Yeah, we love food. We all had the same foods that have been passed down, but they've only been passed down like a couple of generations. However, the experiences of the family gatherings is where we all differed. My older sister and I were blessed to have the experience of grandma involved in the family, which contributed to other foundations for our beliefs, whereas Cassie had a different experience because Mom was young when she died, so that influenced a lot of how she interpreted life and culture in our family. Another major difference that I found between all of us was the question about the heroes. Both of my sisters said that they don't recall ever celebrating heroes, which to me, I was really surprised at that, because I remember coming home and finding Mom crying when the Gulf War started, and that was because her firstborn son, who had died, if he had lived, she felt would have been in that war at that time because he was the right age for it. She was a big supporter of the military, and she, in my perspective, she raised us to admire and to respect those who served others and who gave their life in service to others. That's a hero, and we're surrounded by them every day, but we got to open our eyes to see them. And I was really surprised that they didn't have that same perspective that I do. They both appreciate and support our military, but there's an actual difference in I guess the intensity of how we support. We all agree that the unspoken rules that we have lived by were more modeled for us. They weren't spoken to us. They were given in indirect ways overall, but we all have the same agreements as far as what unspoken rules are and what manners are and how people should be. Our favorite question out of this entire interview was the metaphors, analogies, and witty comments do we recall from our family members, and I want to share those. So for me, I had said that Mom always said, "It's colder than witch's tit out there." She also liked to say, to remind me how much of a fart smeller I was, and that I had a tendency to do everything bass-ackwards. And she liked to tell my older sister, don't be a dunderkopf. And that was actually influenced by her grandmother who spoke German. My little sister shared that her witty comments that she recalls are, "I fluffied when you pass gas." And she actually remembered one that I cannot believe I did not. Our mother had her 3 front teeth missing and she wore a partial, and at Christmas time she would take it out and sing, "All I want for Christmas is my 3 front teeth," which we thought was hilarious. That's one of our favorite stories. My older sister's witty sayings that she recalls are "great gobs of aspidity," and I know multiple aunts and uncles that say this along with our mother. "Shoot far and tarnations." Flutterbys was a popular one, and she too also mentioned bass-ackward, and fart knocker. Don't be a fart knocker, whatever you do in life. A lot of the stories that we all recall have to do with our family members, either aunts or uncles, and their upbringing, Mom and her interactions with her siblings, funny things that happened. And Angie and I recalled a lot of things that we did to one another, or, pranks that we would pull on our cousin. And they all kind of revolved around Grandma's house. Every story that we all told, whether we were in it or not, they all revolved from Grandma's house. So, and along with that, we reflected on those stories as well, whether it dealt with an animal being involved or a lot of them have animals, but that influenced respect of property, respect for other people. And, I found that kind of interesting that both my sisters had animal stories that built into what respect is. We all agreed that respect is almost something that you live by. For the majority of it, authority figures are elders or, police, someone of a higher authority than you, and they are given assumed respect. As far as emotion goes, Cassie and I agree that we were brought up to show emotion. I felt that we were discouraged from showing angry emotion, if at all possible, just because, it's not a positive thing. Angela felt that she was never taught how to be emotional. So, and she to this day has trouble knowing when to show emotion or what is okay to show. With the deeper culture on this, the one thing that kind of surprised me, and I felt went against what had previously been said, was the question about, were you ever allowed to talk back to an adult or question an adult? How did you address adults? For my older sister and I, we both immediately knew, you do not question an adult. No, you do not talk back to an adult. And how do you address an adult? It's not by their first name unless aunt, uncle, miss, or mister come in front of that first name. My little sister, though, she said, yeah, you can question an adult as long as it's respectful. And anybody who isn't in the family, you can address them by their first name. And I'm not really exactly sure what part of her life that came from. But for Angie and I, that wasn't a part of our life. Going even deeper, that brought out the importance of family, the importance of religion, and the importance of love for one another. That's our deep culture. What is good and bad? Along the same lines, we all agreed with slight variations. I reflected on personal good and bad, forgiving yourself when you have done bad. My little sister reflected more biblically. Anything in the 10 Commandments that you break, that's bad. It's good to follow it. And my older sister went more with the contextual aspect of it. What did it affect? Who did it affect? What was the reason for doing it? So it was interesting to see how we all perceived that question. Decision making, we all ended up along the lines of the head of the household. You go to an authority figure, an elder or somebody above you until you become that elder person of the family. Is there a higher power? All three of us unanimously, yes, and in unison, that higher power is God, which reflects on our entire upbringing. Grandpa was a preacher. My mother's family, he did Sunday service songs. They went to a radio station and did service over the radio. So religion has been a huge influence in all of our lives. Collectivism and individualism is where I found a differentiation between my older sister and myself versus my little sister. My older sister and I both agreed that collectivism is our family culture, and my little sister said individualism. Unfortunately, I do know why that is. When Angie and I were younger, we still had Grandma around, and we were able to experience the family coming together to work at Grandma's to gather wood for multiple homes. We got to experience the family coming together to clean the brush, or, we would go on mushroom hunts as a family. Family gatherings, celebrations were always done at Grandma's. And Grandma passed when Cassie was very young, and a lot of those interactions stopped. So, we would still go for some of the family gatherings, like Easter and Thanksgiving is what it turned into. And that was all Cassie got to experience. And it wasn't ever the entire family. It was only part of the family. So she never got that whole power of family and how beautiful it is, which is unfortunate, but explains why she sees us as we were supported to be individuals, but she missed a beautiful thing in the collective of it. Racial inequalities, intellectual differences, physical differences were Nothing that was ever pointed out to us as being different, if that makes sense. Mama didn't raise us to view anyone as a different color. We're all human. We just come from different areas and different environments. We weren't taught to view an individual's intelligence as being less than or more than, because within the three of us, we had experienced that personally, and we knew how it affected us and how it hurt us or empowered us. The physical differences, the happiest I ever saw my mother was with her last husband, which is the man I call Dad, and he had physical disabilities. There was no barrier in their love. So there's no barrier for physical, intellectual, skin tone differences. None of it. Doesn't apply. Growing up, we all felt that we have never experienced a prejudice or interpersonal conflict about it. However, as adults, two of us stated that we have actually experienced that. Differences of ethnicity, race, culture, gender, anything of that sort was not really taught to us by Mom. Angie said that she was first aware of it in second grade, but it wasn't from experiencing it. It was from overhearing talk from her peers about it. Cassie said the first time she really realized it was when she moved from a rural community to a suburban community where there was a more diverse population, but there was no difference from one peer to the next. For me, I think I had the most drastic story in which I was unfortunately told that the N-word referred to dark-skinned people, and in first grade I had called a friend of mine the N-word thinking that was okay language, and she became very upset and called me white trash honky, to which I had no idea what white or honky meant, but she called me trash and I was very hurt by that. And when I went home crying and I told my mom, that was when I learned you don't call people that, that's not right. Caused a huge fight between her and Cassie's father. Wasn't a good time over one ugly word. This cultural investigation has confirmed some of my assumptions pertaining to how different my sisters and I can be in how we have perceived our lives. It has also confirmed the importance of family and community and religion that I personally hold that influence my biases.